Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to uBRACKETOLOGY. I'm your host, Splash. Joining me today, we got Alec and we got Jacob. We're here to tackle your biggest bracket questions before the tournament starts, technically tomorrow, but the first round starts on Friday. How's it going, guys?
Doing well, Splash.
I am chilling, Splash.
Good to hear. Good to hear. So let's get right into it. The number one seed overall, the Gonzaga Bulldogs, undefeated. What are we thinking? What are we thinking about Gonzaga this year?
It's, I guess I'll start. It's so hard to go undefeated in college basketball. Like the best teams, like we thought, it was Karl Anthony Towns Kentucky team in 2014. Like they lost to Frank Kaminsky and Sam Decker in the Final Four. They didn't even get to the championship, and we consider that team to be one of the best teams in recent history. It's just the pressure you have when you're chasing an undefeated record is extreme. But the thing going for Gonzaga is they're not like a Kentucky one and done team. They have Jalen Suggs, obviously a star freshman, but Kispert and Winnie, right? They're not freshmen. They've been there for a couple of years, and I think that experience is pivotal.
Absolutely. Let's go to you, Jacob. What are you thinking about Gonzaga this year?
Yeah, I would agree a lot. Corey Kispert is so much different than anything Kentucky had in 2014. I will add that undefeated teams never seem to pull it off in the tournament. Alec, you kind of mentioned that. Like, they always go in with high expectations, and they never pull it off. I think this team has all the tools to make it to the finals, every tool to probably win the whole thing. But if history repeats itself like it has for the last 20, 30 years, undefeated teams just don't win in the tournament, and I don't think Gonzaga wins this tournament.
That's interesting. They're number one in almost every metric you can throw at them. Number one in BPI, number one in net rating, number one in the Pomeroy ratings. They have the number one offense, have a top 10 defense. They have two guys on the Naismith semifinalist list, and like this is a loaded team. Alec talked about depth. You have both youth with like Jalen Suggs, but you have the talent, like the deep talent. You have Kispert and Drew Tim. I think I'm saying that right, Drew Tim. So I think Gonzaga has to be the favorite. Moving through the West region, and I don't really see a team that can compete. Well, maybe not compete. I don't see a team that can beat them in their region.
I feel like they got a favorable draw in their region. I'm just looking at it now. It's just like the top seeded teams in that region all have extreme flaws. Virginia has COVID issues. Iowa, I don't think is nearly as good as people think. I think for them to go far, Garza has to put up ridiculous numbers. Also, Kansas is also having COVID issues, and it's just, it's bad.
Best team in the region besides Gonzaga is Florida State. And they've got all the tools that they usually have to beat a good team. They play defense really well. They never have superstar players, but they always put teams together that defend well. And this team specifically can score well as well. So if you're going to stop Gonzaga, you're going to have to defend them. And no team in this region other than Florida State is equipped to do that. So if anyone's going to beat them, it's going to be the Seminoles.
Florida State's actually in the East, I believe.
Are they in the East? Am I looking at that wrong? Oh, I'm in the Final Four. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Who did I mean there?
I mean, I like Oregon as a 7 seed. I think they can.
They'll beat them in the Final Four is what I'm saying. They could.
Yeah, I think I think Oregon could be a scary matchup. Oh, geez, that's really blurry. I think Oregon could be a good matchup for Gonzaga in the Elite Eight potentially. This is like everything that applies to Gonzaga with the depth and the experience applies to Oregon. They always overachieve in March, it seems. They had a weird loss to Oregon State in the tournament, but they went to the Final Four in 2017 after they lost Chris Boucher, right? And they don't have Peyton Pritchard anymore. He's in the NBA, but they have I think they start 5 seniors. This is a pretty loaded roster, and I think they're a little underseeded as a 7. You know, before they lost to Oregon State, they'd won 11 out of the last 12, and they are as hot as any team in the country. And I think, you know, Chris Duarte, Eugene Omarue, they can score from anywhere, and this is I think Oregon can make the Elite Eight, maybe the Final Four if they can upset Gonzaga.
I have them knocking off Iowa in the round of 32. I really believe in Oregon. I think USC will be a tough matchup for them. USC or Kansas would probably be a tough matchup for them. I'd have USC going there, but Oregon's one of those teams. They always surprise in the tournament, and they always play well in the tournament. And this Oregon team specifically is looking really strong. They've got 5 players who average double figures, so everybody on their team can score, and they're all veterans. They've all been here before, and Oregon's just a strong team. They're somebody that nobody's going to talk about that much, and I think that they're going to make a push.
Absolutely.
USC is actually interesting because I think tomorrow's game between Wichita and Drake is very fascinating, and I feel like Drake is the much better team than Wichita, and I feel like I'd be inclined to pick Drake over USC if Drake would advance tomorrow.
See, I tend to agree. I know I was doing some research with USC, and they're, you know, top 20 in BPI, net, Pomeroy stuff. They have Evan Mobley, who's amazing. They're great rebounding team, great shot blocking team, and they do have issues at the free throw line, which could come to bite them. And as we know in tournament games, that you got to make your free throws late. That's one reason why, like, UConn wins titles. Shout out to Jack. You know, and that can undo a team. And I think USC is very good. I tend to think the Pac-12 is a little overrated this year. Just looking at the numbers, you know, the Big 12 is a little underrated. You know, OK State, Texas, and I think USC might be a tad overrated. And this Drake team, I think, is very good. If they were in any other conference, they probably win it. But they have this buzzsaw named Loyola Chicago, and they're in the Missouri Valley.
Yeah, I could see Wichita State winning that game, though. I think Drake's the better team, but Wichita's a tourney team, and they love winning. They just win tourney games every single year, no matter who they have. They don't have maybe some of the NBA players they've had in the past, but they just find a way to win tourney games. And I would take Wichita State, and then I would take USC.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to go USC if Wichita wins. Also, if we can jump here, I also think Michigan State UCLA is also a huge first 4 game because I am not a big fan of BYU. I play Gonzaga really well in the conference championship game, but I don't know. I really don't like that BYU squad. And I think Michigan State, they caught fire at the end of the regular season, even though they got killed by Maryland in round 1 of the Big Ten. But I feel like that's a hot team, and I feel like you just can't bet against Tom Izzo.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. You know, this Michigan State team is rolling. They beat Illinois, Ohio State, Michigan in the last couple weeks. They got stopped a little early in the tournament. You know, I thought they could win the tournament. You know, but they did lose to Maryland a little early. And even UCLA, they started 12-2, and I think if you just look at the rosters, like just compare like position to position, I think UCLA just might have a more talented roster than BYU. Like, that's not to say BYU is a bad team by any stretch. I just think it's a bad matchup, especially for the 6-11 line.
BYU is such an interesting team because you read up on their profile, they had 6 losses, and 3 of them were to Gonzaga. And they beat San Diego State by 10. They beat Utah State by 3. Other losses were they got destroyed by USC, and they lost to Splash's Boise State Broncos in a close one. But BYU shoots the 3 ball really well, and they have a chance, I think, to go on a run if they can continue to hit those shots. And if we see the BYU team that we saw for the first half of that Gonzaga game, then this is a team that's really strong. But they've got to close it out, and that's something they didn't do.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. And jumping to the 3-14 matchup, we have Texas and Abilene Christian, the Battle of Texas schools. I think Texas prevails, but I think the winner of that 6-11 game can give Texas a run. You know, Texas did win the Big 12 tournament. They looked really good. They beat Cade Cunningham and Oklahoma State, an impressive win there. But I think Michigan State might have some magic in them. You know, they can really beat anyone in the tournament. UCLA is a very talented roster, and of course BYU is a 6 seed for a reason. You know.
I love Shaka Smart. I think he's a great head coach. I don't know about this Texas team. Their Big 12 championship run, it kind of seemed a little not fluky, but I thought Oklahoma State is a much better team than Texas, and I keep seeing Texas to the Final Four, and I just don't know. I don't think they have that in them. I could be completely wrong. Maybe I haven't watched enough Texas games this year, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I do look at the.
Yeah,
I guess we're lagging here.
Yeah, I think his screen is lagging a little bit.
Yeah, it's not doing the best.
Can you hear me, Splash?
I can hear you, Alec.
I can hear him too.
Okay. Well, I was going to say that I think Alabama, UConn. Sorry, Maryland. Alabama, UConn is going to be an interesting game moving forward. And I don't trust Texas. I would trust both UConn and Alabama more, and even I would trust like Michigan State or BYU or UCLA probably to beat Texas. And I think, yeah, like Alex said, I don't think it's a fluky win, like obviously, or a fluky win to win the Big 12, but it's a very talented Texas team. But I don't necessarily see them as like a Final Four contender, if you will. Now, if they make the Final Four, would I be shocked? Actually, a little bit. But I think Texas is a good team, but they have exploitable flaws.
I guess we could. Should we cover the Maryland UConn game real quick? I know Jack's out there watching. I don't know, but
yeah, we can cover the UConn game. You know, I think UConn is a tad underseeded. They went 11-3 with James Bouknight in the lineup. Their only losses were Creighton when neither team could make a shot, Creighton in overtime, and a loaded Villanova team. I think they win all three of those games if they were replayed right now. And, you know, you get Bouknight, who's one of the best scorers in the country. And as long as you can get some secondary scoring, UConn can really beat anyone in that bracket. And they could be a Final Four team. You know, they could, like Jack's saying, they could be a national championship team. Of course, in 2014, UConn went all the way as a 7 seed, and that was wildly impressive. So they could do it again this year, although Alabama is a tough team to face in the round of 32 if they beat Maryland, of course.
I don't think Maryland is going to win this game. I think they're not less talented, but they're severely outcoached. Dan Hurley is an incredible coach. Mark Turgeon is a coach. But the thing going for Maryland is if they will make a game out of it, it will have to be because of Daryl Morcell. His 10 Defensive Player of the Year. He is a really good rim defender, and he'll be matched up on both nights. And it will make for it should be a good one during the game. But I think UConn will be able to outscore Maryland despite Maryland's defensive strengths.
Do you have any?
Just feels like the Cinderella story this year. I mean, they just have everything. Like they of the year, and they've got a path where they've got some teams that they could probably beat all in a row. With Alabama, if it's Texas, whoever it is in that next round, like UConn just has all the pieces in place for them to make a little bit of a run, and I've got them in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. And you know, just looking at the way the bracket shapes out, I think the East might be the most exciting section. I think you look at the Midwest, and I think it's going to be like the winner of Illinois, Oklahoma State. I think that's a foregone conclusion to me. And then I think Baylor and Gonzaga can probably run their regions, but I don't trust Michigan as much as I would usually trust a 1 seed. There could be 6 or 7 different teams come out of the East. I wouldn't be surprised.
I think Michigan's run will be dependent on Isaiah Livers. It seems that offensively is the leader of the team. Hunter Dickinson isn't enough to achieve where they want to go. What do you think about LSU possibly being Michigan in 1 and 2?
I think LSU can really score the basketball, and that St. Bonaventure is I guess an upset there. Interesting.
I got the Bonnies, LSU and Michigan, because they just St. Bonaventure. I don't really know what it is about them that I like. I just think they do it all, and they have always done it all. And with Livers out, they take advantage of a Michigan team that should have lost to Ohio State by 20.
Yes.
I think the most uneven, well, not the uneven, I guess it's everyone's favorite upset, but Georgetown versus Colorado, it really feels like Georgetown is actually the better team than Colorado. I saw Colorado play versus Oregon State late Friday night, I guess, in the Pac-12 championship, and I really wasn't impressed by Colorado. I feel like they're kind of overseeded, and I feel like Georgetown will be able to beat them pretty easily.
I think that's interesting. I know, like, one of the points after all my research that I know I was leaning towards like Georgetown, Oregon State, and Morehead State just from what I had seen. But I've been thinking back, and like, Colorado is a really good team, and that was a weird loss to Oregon State. I don't want to pin all of their problems just to that one game. And I think it's the same sort of thing with, like, say, Creighton and Georgetown, that Creighton's still a great team. They had a screwy couple games in the tournament, and Georgetown's just riding this wave, and Oregon State's just riding this wave. And I think they're like punching above their weight a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled their upsets. Oregon State plays Tennessee, right? Yeah, I think that's right. And Georgetown plays Colorado, of course. I'm leaning Colorado. You're gonna get back to the good free throw shooting that they had all year. They were at least top 10 in the tournament among tournament teams. I think they were maybe second or third. They can really score the basketball, very efficient offensively, and they're a top 20 team in most metrics. But I do think that I'm going to lean Colorado and Tennessee over Oregon State, and my beloved Morehead State Eagles. I'm slowly backing away just because I saw them play really well against Belmont doesn't mean they're going to beat a 3 seed, you know.
Yeah, I do not. I think Oregon State. I feel like Tennessee's a really good team, and they have a really good head coach who is like 100 years old. I always forget how old LeBron is, but I don't really like Oregon State. It was impressive what they did in the Pac-12. I think Tennessee was a vastly superior team.
Yeah, Tennessee, I think, takes that one easily. Georgetown, however, I think they can get it done. When you're riding the wave, when you're a hot team, that usually continues into the tournament. And Georgetown might be the hottest team in the country right now, especially after that Creighton win. Colorado's good, but something about having the motivation and everything on your side when you're Georgetown, and a great coach. They've got every tool right now that they can knock off Colorado.
I think that's all fair. 5-12 is the usual, like, pick me for upsets. There are some interesting ones this year. Georgetown, Colorado, we talked about. UC Santa Barbara and Creighton, that's another one that I think is a little under the radar because a lot of people don't watch UC Santa Barbara because they play in California. And I mean, I think we know in college sports that teams on the West Coast get a little less fewer headlines than teams on the East Coast. Winthrop over Villanova, that's a really popular pick with Villanova losing Connor Gillespie. And then, of course, Oregon State, Tennessee, which I think people might end up riding the wave with Oregon State, but I don't think that would be for the best.
I just want to mention people in the chat real quick. It's a Penny Hardaway Magic jersey. I don't wear it often. Actually, I've never worn it before. I bought it last year as a collector's item, but I just had to throw it on for this show. But yeah, I'd like to talk about Ohio State and Oral Roberts. I think it's a very interesting game. Oral Roberts has the nation's leading scorer, Max Amos. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he shoot threes well, he shoots foul shots well. That's a recipe for pull-off upsets in the tournament. I don't think Ohio State will lose, but I really want to pick Oral Roberts really badly. But I feel like it will be a really close game.
Yeah, I think I really want to pick Oral Roberts, but that's
Go ahead, Splash.
Okay. I really want to pick Oral Roberts, but it is a 215, and there's good reason that Ohio State's a 2 seed, and there's a good reason Oral Roberts is a 15 seed. And it's one of those, it's a scary thing, of course, when you have a team that's one of the best three-point shooting teams in the tournament, and Oral Roberts, they really let it fly. I think they led the entire country in threes made per game. They were, making 10, 11, 12 threes. And, it's Ohio State can be a little shaky. They don't force a lot of turnovers. That is partially due to Big Ten play and generally better basketball there. But in general, I think Oral Roberts could be a trendy pick. They can hit a lot of threes. They really push the pace. But if Ohio State can try to wrangle that in, control the pace, win on the glass, Oral Roberts is the worst rebounding team in the tournament, bar none. And Ohio State, comparatively speaking, is a very good rebounding team. So this is a very interesting matchup to me that if Oral Roberts wins or keeps it close, I'm not shocked, but I do think Ohio State prevails.
I'd just like to comment that I'm not in a prison cell. It is a dorm room with very cement walls and horrible Wi-Fi connection. So that's what this is.
Yeah, I feel you there, pal.
This is getting bags for his one side and water pipe or something. I don't know. I've seen Colgate be picked over Arkansas, and I don't like Colgate had one loss on the season. Obviously, they had COVID issues, but I really like Arkansas. I think Moses Moody is. If Arkansas gets a big run, I feel like they're capable of the Final Four. I feel like Moses Moody could be a potential. I feel like he could win South, but they give out awards for each region, right? Like player of the region. I feel like Moses Moody could easily win South player of the region.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and the Arkansas Colgate game is going to be one of the wildest scoring games. Colgate's the number 2 scoring team of the tournament. Arkansas's number 5 scoring team of the tournament. Colgate, their issue, they don't play a lot of defense. They just score. And as far as I remember reading, they only played a handful of teams. So they were playing, I think, 5 different teams the entire season, which was a little weird to play 15 games against only 5 teams. But I love Arkansas. Moody's a spectacular player, and Arkansas is a team that I have in my personal bracket going to the Final Four.
I also have Arkansas going to the Final Four. I'll also mention North Carolina is, I think they're a very underrated team. I don't think they're underseeded, but I think they're underrated. They have a lot of depth, and they got going at the end of the year. And I don't know. I feel like Baylor. I like Baylor a lot, but I feel like I don't think Baylor would lose to North Carolina, but I think it'd be also a really close game.
North Carolina's got one of the top coaches in the country too. I mean, you can never count out Roy Williams to just come out and win some of these games just based on coaching alone. Like everybody in the comments loved UNC. They've loved him the whole time.
Yeah, North Carolina is a weird team to me. I think they had a little lull in the middle of the season. I wasn't sure if they would make the tournament, but they turned it on down the stretch. They played pretty well in the tournament, all things considered. They're one of the best rebounding teams in the country, which is important there. Wisconsin plays at such a slow pace that it might only take a couple, like a rebound here, a rebound there, then you just kind of screw up the entire game at that point. And I think either team could win and even beat Baylor. Baylor is trying to. They had this 22-2 season. They had a goofy loss against Kansas. They had a goofy loss I guess they had a technical loss, if you will, in the tournament because they had COVID issues. Or that was Kansas. Never mind. Baylor had a goofy loss to Kansas. So Baylor's I think they're a good team. I think they're a very good team. They have one of the top 10 players in the country, but who knows? Who knows? North Carolina is a scary team.
Should we move on to the Midwest? This is by far my favorite region. I think it's a ridiculously loaded region. I actually think it's really unbalanced. I want to start with the Loyola Chicago Georgia Tech game because Loyola, I see there's a lot of Loyola Chicago fans, but I actually think Georgia Tech is the most underrated team in this tournament. They had the ACC Player of the Year, and they had the ACC Defensive Player of the Year. Moses Wright and Jose Alvarado, I think his name is. And their third leading scorer, I think his last name is Usher. They're all seniors. And like I said, there's that senior leadership and guys that have been in on their teams been in the system, our experience. I think that is the best thing to have in March. And I really wish Georgia Tech wasn't in Illinois' bracket because I would have if Georgia Tech was playing Michigan in round 2, I really probably would like them. I love this Georgia Tech team. I think they're very good, and I don't think they could get past Illinois. Hell, they might even lose to Loyola Chicago, but I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia Tech was in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I think this is one that I hate to see. I think Loyola and Georgia Tech are a little underseeded. Both of them are very good teams and could probably beat any team in the country that's not Illinois or Gonzaga, I think. And even Loyola is the best defensive team in the country. They run an efficient offense. They have all sorts of depth. And then Georgia Tech, you can say what you will about getting a COVID win in the ACC tournament, but they're a very talented team. They're led by ACC Player of the Year, as you mentioned, and that's going to be a great 8-9 matchup. Like we just talked about with North Carolina, Wisconsin, but Loyola versus Georgia Tech, that is a game you must tune into.
Yeah, I think it'll be one of my favorite games of the first round. Also, we just talked about our other favorite games, the Ohio State Oral Roberts and Colgate Arkansas games will also be must-watch games. Also, Oklahoma State versus Liberty. Liberty they're a powerhouse in conference. Are they in? Is it the Ace?
Yeah, the Ace Sun. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they've won that for every single at least 3 out of the last 5 years, and I feel like they got an upset win a couple years ago. I feel like it was maybe over Ole Miss. I made that up, but
yeah, I think it was over Ole Miss.
I feel like that's a great game. Oklahoma State is a great team, and I wish they weren't in Illinois' upper half of their region, and I hate that they could lose in the Sweet 16 to Illinois because I think Oklahoma State is also a Final Four team, but also I could see Liberty winning that game versus Oklahoma State. I'd be shocked if it happened, but Liberty's a really good team.
Yeah, they scored about 75 points a game. They led the conference in scoring They're among the country leaders in 3-point percentage, free throw percentage. They can really score. And it's just sometimes it's a matter of if you get hot or if not. But then again, you look at Oklahoma State, you look at the Cowboys, and you see, oh, Cade Cunningham exists, probably the best player in the country. I think that's a fair, most talented player in the country. I think that's absolutely fair, and he's a guy that he really stirs the drink. Oklahoma State's very talented outside of Cunningham, but Cunningham's the guy that separates them between, they'll go to the Sweet 16 and get killed by Illinois versus they can win the darn tournament. They are, I think, tremendously underseeded as a 4 seed. And if you swapped the 3 line and the 4 line, I would be perfectly fine with it, because I think, Oklahoma State, they beat West Virginia twice in the last 3 weeks. Purdue's very good. Florida State had COVID issues early in the season. They didn't play many games. And then Virginia and Kansas, they both had COVID issues recently. But I think Oklahoma State is probably a top 10 team in the country. And I could even take them over maybe Alabama or Houston in their own region.
Yeah, I do agree. Cade Cunningham is the most valuable player. Luka Garza might be just the sheer best player in college basketball, even though I think versus a really good big man, he could be shut out. Well, not shut out, but very limited. And I think that would be Iowa's undoing eventually. But yeah, I agree. My personal favorite player the whole year has been Jalen Suggs. I've made multiple posts on uSTADIUM dating back to the very beginning of the season, just loving Jalen Suggs. He's just so fun to watch. He reminds me of a young Russell Westbrook, but Suggs is actually a much better shooter than Westbrook has ever been. But yeah, I would have loved to see Cade Cunningham versus Jalen Suggs, but unfortunately, the only way for that to happen is the championship game. But it's not completely out of the realm of possibilities that we don't see that matchup. It could easily happen. Well, not easily happen, but it could happen. It's not a stretch.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that Oklahoma State's probably the second best team in their region. Say what you will about West Virginia and Houston, but I mean, look, college basketball is a game driven by star guards a lot of the time. We've seen it with Kemba. We've seen it with Shabazz Napier. We've seen it with Tyus Jones in 2015. There just some guards just are different. I think Cade is one of those guys that I wouldn't be shocked if he has 30 against Liberty, 30 against Tennessee, and then 30 against Illinois, and all of a sudden, you're in the Elite Eight, and you're gonna play an inferior Houston team. Now, no disrespect to Houston, no disrespect to West Virginia, although West Virginia has lost to Oklahoma State twice in the last couple of weeks. I think Oklahoma State's just a better team.
I think, looking at the bottom half of that region, I think Syracuse has not an easy path, but I feel like they could low-key have a favorable path to an Elite Eight appearance. I know, I don't know if Adam's watching, but he's a huge Syracuse fan. I'm almost positive he has them in his Elite Eight, and I feel like they lost that heartbreaker in the ACC tournament to Virginia the day before Virginia had COVID issues, and I feel like they're a very good team for an 11 seed, and I feel like Boeheim has made magical runs as a low seed before, and I could see it happening again.
Yeah, I think that's fair. San Diego State is rolling. I'll give them some credit. I think they've won 13 or 14 or something ridiculous over in the Mountain West. They're a top 10 defense. They have a couple stars, Jordan Shackle and Matt Mitchell, that can really score the basketball. They're a top 20 team by a lot of metrics, and I think the winner beats West Virginia, whether it's Syracuse or San Diego State. Although I haven't sold all of my stock on Morehead State. I'm just kind of cooling off from them because they were my, first taste of, I don't want to say first taste of college basketball, but first taste of tournament basketball. In the Ohio Valley final, they're the first team to Liberty technically, but they were the first team to win their conference, and that was a impressive win there. West Virginia has been a little shaky of late, but I definitely think the winner of San Diego State, Syracuse, can go to the Sweet 16. And Houston's not an infallible 2 seed,
I think Houston looks weak as a 2 seed, but they have an incredible team. And they have a top 10 coach in the country. In my opinion, I love Kelvin Sampson. I don't know how much people value coaching in March. I feel like I've been talking about it a lot. I don't know if it's huge of a deal. Well, no, you have to be an elite. Well, you have to be a good coach but I feel like I'm placing more emphasis in coaching than it is like I personally dislike Bob Huggins for West Virginia. I don't know why I've always had this weird vendetta against him, but he's yeah.
Yeah, I think the winner of Illinois, Oklahoma State, it's a pretty easy, I don't want to say easy, but a pretty fair Final Four lock. And I would bet on that. And I'm sure they would be the favorites, like according to Vegas. Because, like, yeah, Houston's very good. They have Quentin Grimes, who's one of the Naismith Award finalists. They killed Cincinnati last week. You know, they're really good offensively. They're really strong defensively, but I don't think they can beat Illinois, and I don't think they can beat Oklahoma State.
I wish Oklahoma State Illinois was a Final Four matchup. It's assuming they both get there, it will certainly feel like a Final Four matchup in the Sweet 16. It'll feel like how some years in the AFC and NFC championship games where there's just two superior teams playing in one conference, and it feels more like the Super Bowl than what the actual Super Bowl is, or like Absolutely. When the Ravens and Patriots played in 2014 in the AFC divisional game, whoever won that game was going to be Indianapolis in the AFC championship game.
Amen.
The Illinois Oklahoma State game would probably feel something close to that. Like, whoever wins this game will be in the Final Four.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a goofy thing there that in other brackets, I think it's more of I could see like Oregon beating Gonzaga, or I could see like UConn beating Michigan, or, Colorado beating Alabama, or I could see these little upsets happening, but I don't see Illinois losing to a team other than Oklahoma State. And I don't really see Oklahoma State losing to a team other than Illinois. And I mean, gun to my head, I might say Loyola is the third best team in that group or in that region. I do like Houston, I do like West Virginia, but I think Loyola is really special, and they should not have been an 8 seed. I'm thinking more like a 6 seed, 5 seed even, just based on the resume.
I agree, and I'm not picking Loyola because I love Georgia Tech, but I'm really excited to see Sister Jean on Friday or Saturday whenever they're playing. I think it's very cool, especially with attendance. I think she just turned 101, so good for Sister Jean.
Yeah, it's great to see like one of the legends of recent college basketball history, come back. And this Loyola team, they went to the Final Four in 2018. They have a couple of the same pieces, but most of the team's gone. But this team is loaded. This is a very talented team. I mentioned it, top defense in the country. They're top 10 in net rating, top 10 in Pomeroy rating. That's hard to do. Now, granted, Colgate's top 10 in, I think, net rating, which is interesting as a 14 seed. But, hey, what do you do? What do you do?
Yeah, I think the problem with Colgate is I only watched them once, and that was in their conference championship game because I wanted to see Loyola Maryland play, and they got absolutely killed. But they're such a tough team because of their 15 games they played on the season, and they had there was 6 teams in that conference this season because I think a lot opted out, and it was just they've had a really weird season.
Yeah, it's just I know they only played 5 teams, right, the entire year, and it's just I don't know if I can really trust that in March. Now they're going to be exciting. I'm going to definitely tune into Arkansas, the Arkansas Colgate game, but it's hard to imagine like as a 14 seed, it's hard to imagine them both beating Arkansas and then beating I believe they would play the winner of Texas Tech, the Utah State, which I believe will be Texas Tech. But I guess we haven't talked about that, but yeah.
Do you know what Chad is talking about CD for Loyola Chicago? Am I missing something?
I mean, I know their best player has his first initial is C.
Wig or something.
Yeah, Krutwig, but I doubt he's CD. I mean, I'll look it up. Loyola Chicago CD. Like I mean, I'll look at the roster.
Yeah, I feel stupid. I feel
like, wait, is it CD's nuts? It might be CD's nuts.
Oh,
oh boy.
We fell for it.
Yeah. Okay. I thought you were being serious. They do have a player named Baylor on the team, so they might beat Baylor just because of that. Yeah, there you go, Mike. Good job. All right. But we're gonna try to get Fifth back on. See if we fixed the audio. If not, then we're sorry that we've lost a third of our trio. So Fifth, let's try it again. Are we good? Is the ticky-tack key?
I'm here. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna.
Everything's working.
Okay. Well, I think we're gonna try for next show. We can work out the audio during the week, but I think for the sake of the audio for the listeners, I think we're gonna have to cut you today. Sorry, pal. All right, Alec and I, we're gonna move into a little bracket here. Got the ESPN Tournament Challenge up.
I'm sorry, Spot. I just want to say one more thing. I'm looking at potential matchups, and I'd be shocked if this matchup actually happened. But I mean, it could. In the Sweet 16, a potential USC Iowa matchup versus Garza and Mobley would be an incredible matchup to watch. I just saw that randomly, but
I think that could happen. I do like Oregon over Iowa potentially, but I think definitely I've had a 6-7 Oregon USC here before, but Iowa could be could definitely beat Oregon. So we're gonna go ahead and start up at the top. We're gonna fix that later, but I think we're both in agreement. Gonzaga over the play-in game.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a 35-point game. They might keep it close a little bit.
Yeah.
But
so Oklahoma, Missouri. I'm leaning Oklahoma.
I tend to agree. I think Oklahoma is probably better than their record just because of how good the Big 12 was. Like they were literally the 7th seed in the Big 12 conference tournament, and they were ranked in the 8 people for almost all of the year. It's insane how stacked the Big 12 was and the Big 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that at some point they had at least half of the top 25 was either Big 10 or Big 12 schools, and that's insane to me. I'm leaning Creighton over UC Santa Barbara, although I may pick that in a bracket or two.
I do think Creighton is probably better. I forget how to pronounce his name, Zagorowski. I think he's a very good scorer. I think he's talented enough to will them at least to one win or two. I actually fell asleep watching the Big West championship game over the weekend between UC Santa Barbara and UC Irvine. So I know UC Irvine is usually the powerhouse of that conference, but I felt it was like the game started at like 11 p.m. and it was like 1:00. It was a weird game.
Yeah, like I know I was doing polls and like there were games like the West Coast Conference and then the Big West were like starting at 11:59 Eastern, and I'm like, what the heck are you doing, man? So Virginia, Ohio. I think Ohio's an interesting upset pick with Virginia dealing with COVID, but I'm tending to lean Virginia.
I'd be surprised if Virginia lost this game. They are dealing with COVID. I don't know how. I feel like it could affect maybe Kansas more because I feel like Virginia might be a better team than Kansas. But the last time Ohio was in the tournament, I think a couple years ago, they were at 12 or 13. I believe they made it to the Sweet 16, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think they maybe 2012, 2013, they played North Carolina in the third round and lost a heartbreaker. So, yeah, I think it's certainly an exciting team. They are rolling. They rolled through the MAC. They beat a good Buffalo team. Yeah, and I think Ohio, if there's like a 14 or a 13 seed upset, I'm leaning Ohio, although bottom of the bracket, yeah, I'm leaning Ohio if there is a 13/4.
Yeah, I think Virginia is probably the weakest 4 seed in their bracket, especially with COVID. We've seen these teams that have dealt with COVID pauses or breaks or just have their depth crush have struggled out of the getting back to their feet. But Virginia, let's see, it's only going to be about a week off. It's not like they have 3 weeks like some teams had in the middle of the season. And those teams are coming off a week rest anyway. So I don't think it'll be too big of a deal unless maybe there's something that will release and maybe their roster will be released or their inactives or whoever's ineligible to make the trip to Indianapolis, and that would come out. That could be an issue. I'm more interested in Kansas's. I think Virginia has more depth. I think they'll find a way. But yeah.
So I think we're both in agreement that Drake can beat USC, right?
Yeah. It's just I think Drake is a really good team. And
I tend to agree. It's just if they, these first 4 games can be a little screwy. If Wichita State has one good half of shooting threes or whatever, then all of a sudden Wichita State wins, and then I would lean USC in the first round.
For the sake of this, do you want to act like Drake will beat Wichita and then beat USC?
Yes. Right. Yeah, so pretend, everyone watching, pretend this is Drake, not whatever that is.
If it is, although I don't expect them to beat USC.
Yeah, so we both have Drake over USC, but USC over Wichita State. And I think we both have Kansas over Eastern Washington.
Yeah.
Regardless of COVID.
I don't know much about Eastern Washington. I know they have
VCU
football, but
yeah. So Oregon VCU, I think there is some buzz for VCU. I don't know where it comes from. Like, I follow VCU all year long. I don't really see it. This isn't the 2011 Rams. This is a really good Oregon team, and I think Oregon cruises.
I think it's just namesake for VCU, as they've been a mainstay in the tournament as a mid-major. Like, I feel like that's probably the reason. I remember when you posted the St. Bonaventure VCU A10 championship poll, it was like 80-20 VCU, and that was the most confused I've ever been for a poll. I literally commented WTI. I was so confused. Yeah.
That was bizarre to me. It's like, St. Bonaventure's the better team. They're favored. I don't know what's going on here. So let's move on to the East. For the sake of time, we'll at least pick the first round games. If we have good, or if we're good on time, we can pick deeper into the tournament. But Michigan over the play-in game, I would imagine.
We can try to speed it up a little bit to see if we can get farther in.
All right. LSU St. Bonaventure. I think we disagree here.
I like LSU, but I really like St. Bonaventure too. I watch St. Bonaventure a lot down the stretch because I follow the A10 closely. But I don't know. Cam Thomas could easily have like 27 points and LSU wins by like 10. But they're a bipolar team.
They're one of the best scoring teams in the country, but then one of the worst defensive teams in the tournament.
I feel like St. Bonaventure, I don't know. We can reserve your judgment. Are you picking St. Bonaventure?
I was leaning LSU.
Oh, okay. Then let's go with LSU because I'm leaning LSU, but I haven't made that decision yet. I think both going with Georgetown here.
Begrudgingly, I think they can win a game. I think they win a game. And then Florida State. I'm sure.
They're probably the best 4 seed in the tournament.
Then play-in game over BYU.
I like Michigan State. You told me good things about UCLA, which
they started 12-2.
Sure.
Okay. Texas, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
UConn.
Yep. Sorry, Mark. Hopefully you get fired.
Let's head over to the South. Baylor, North Carolina, Wisconsin. Interesting 8-9 game. You can sway me here. I'm totally 50-50.
I live in North Carolina. I wasn't really impressed with Wisconsin this year, but once again, it could be just because the Big Ten was very good.
Right. I think they. Let me just check. Like they were 3-9 against the top 25, and they just like brutal. Lost to Michigan twice, lost to Illinois twice, lost to Iowa 3 times, lost to Ohio State, lost to Purdue, lost to Maryland. All those are tournament teams. You know, that's just tough. So I'm going to lean North Carolina with you. Villanova Winthrop, popular upset pick. Do you go with the upset, or do you think the Wildcats pull one out?
I think I'll probably go with Winthrop just because Villanova has looked not terrible. They've looked bad ever since Gillespie went down. I feel like they lost 3 out of their last 4 games.
I know they lost to Butler, which is right. It was a bad loss.
And
they lost to Georgetown in the tournament.
To Georgetown, that was a really good game. Georgetown had a buzzer. Was it a buzzer beater? It came down to the final shot either way. But I think Villanova is limping into March, and that's never a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely not. Although I have had it work against me. I know there was one year Oregon was the 3 seed, and I just picked Rhode Island over them every single bracket I had, and then Oregon runs to the Final Four just because they lose their best player, and all of a sudden they're in the Final Four.
I used to pick against Gonzaga every year for the longest time. One year I nailed it. The Kelly Olynyk team that went in undefeated, I think, or with 1 loss. That team was. I hated that team. It was horrible. If my high school friend Dylan Bartle is still in this chat, you can attest to it. We both picked Gonzaga to lose really early because we both hated Kelly Olynyk, and everyone hates Kelly Olynyk now. So
yeah, he ruined the 2015 Cavs. I'd imagine Purdue over North Texas.
Yeah,
and Texas Tech over Utah State.
I agree. Are you going with Arkansas?
Yeah, I'm going with Arkansas. I think, Arkansas. I think can win the well, maybe not win the tournament, but I think they can get to the Final Four.
Yeah, I would love to see Colgate get a different 3 seed because I think Arkansas is the best 3 seed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like if it was Kansas and Colgate,
I would probably pick Colgate.
Yeah, because COVID issues. I'm leaning Virginia Tech over Florida. Virginia Tech had a wicked hot start, and then they had a COVID pause.
I think they're still a solid team. Virginia Tech is. I'm not a big fan of Florida.
And then we both love Oral Roberts, but I think we're going to pick Ohio State here.
Yeah, I just for everyone still listening. So Splash and I, we're playing this on the record. For the sake of this, we are picking Ohio State. I don't think in our pool bracket for money we'll pick Oral Roberts, but we are both on the record for saying if Oral Roberts wins this game, none of us would be surprised.
Right, and that's it's one of the live by the 3, die by the 3 things we've seen.
I'm sorry, telemarketing. Don't know what that's about.
Yeah, we've seen teams hit a bunch of 3s and win a couple games. We've seen teams miss a bunch of 3s and lose by 50. I don't know what the spread is on this game, but if I had money, I would have Oral Roberts to cover. All right, let's speed through the Midwest. Illinois Drexel. Illinois.
Yeah. Shout out to I grew up with someone down the street from me as a child who was actually on Drexel. So shout out to Julian Adams. No one probably knows who he is, but I think it's really cool.
That's great. Loyola, Georgia Tech. I know you're going Georgia Tech. I think I'm leaning a little Loyola, but you probably are more Georgia Tech than I am Loyola, so we'll go Georgia Tech here.
Okay.
Tennessee, Oregon State.
Yeah, Tennessee.
Yeah. Kate Cunningham.
Yep.
Syracuse. I think we're both with Syracuse.
Yeah.
And then, as much as I love my Eagles, they're not even my Eagles. as much as I think Morehead State could beat a good team, I think West Virginia just beats them.
Do you think Morehead State look? I don't think they're a really good team, but I don't think they're as good as they look versus Belmont. They beat them by like what, 20 points in that
Yeah,
game?
that was an ugly loss for Belmont. You know, I thought Belmont was going to pull out the dub, and it's like this Broom kid is fantastic.
They're not 20 points better than Belmont, and they couldn't keep it close, but I think West Virginia will pull away. I don't think we talked about this game, but I actually like Rutgers.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't really see the value in Clemson. I think like if there's an upset here, well, if there's like a 10, I'd probably pick Rutgers because or Virginia Tech. But yeah, then I think we're both with Houston over Cleveland State.
Mm-hmm. If Fifth was here, he'd probably say something about Cleveland State, but I don't think he'd pick them over Houston.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So I guess we can do a quick second round because that would be between our next show. By the way, guys, we're coming back next Wednesday. Hopefully Fifth can get his Wi-Fi worked out. Don't really know what happened today. We were planning on having three hosts, but to break some ties here, but we will be back next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. We're going to wrap it up a little bit here. I would imagine we both have Gonzaga.
Yeah. I don't think Oklahoma. I think that's a week 8-9 matchup. Mm-hmm. I think Gonzaga should have no issue getting the next weekend, like 2 20-point wins.
Yeah. Creighton, Virginia is interesting. Creighton's slipping. Virginia has COVID.
It's hard. I feel like I'd still lean Creighton. I don't know what you're.
Yeah, I think so too. Like I think Creighton. I think they're better than they played against UConn and Georgetown. Like as ugly as those games were, I think they're just better. I would take Drake over Kansas.
I agree.
And I know Iowa's very good, but they're streaky. I know what I'm going to get from Oregon. I know, like with Kate Cunningham, like I tend to go best player wins if I'm 50-50. Luka Garza, I know he's incredible. I don't think I'm 50-50 on this game. I'm leaning Oregon.
All right, we'll go with that. I need to do more research on Oregon, but I'll work on that over the next day. But you sound confident in Oregon, so we'll go with
you. I'm thinking Oregon can go to the Elite Eight.
I am not confident in either of these teams winning this game.
All right, Michigan, LSU. I'll go Michigan.
Yeah, it's probably safer.
I think Florida State beats Georgetown. Great run by Georgetown, but I don't see it.
I hope they can build on this, though, because for Georgetown to be a relevant elite program again in college basketball, it would be really good for college basketball.
Amen to that. I kind of want to lean with the 11 seed over Texas here.
I feel like Michigan State could do it. You keep telling me good things about UCLA, so let's just go.
Let's go.
I told Weed and Boys that he should tune in to see us hit Texas to the Final Four. But
oh man, rest in peace.
He'll be okay. He'll get over it. What are we thinking here? This would be such a good game. It would be the game of the second round.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I hate to be cynical, but I do think Alabama wins. I think they're the better team. And I think UConn, like talent-wise, is a little underseeded at 7. Like talent-wise, they're probably a 5 seed. But just the way, like they have losses on their schedule. Like I can say all that I want that, they were 11-3 with James Bouknight. Well, they had losses without him. They have flaws. I do think Alabama wins.
I think Alabama's they're I forget how to pronounce his name. Javon Quinterly.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of their guards. Yeah. I'm actually a huge fan of him. I don't know if I think he's a freshman or a sophomore. I don't know if he's a top NBA prospect, but I really liked his game during the SEC tournament.
All right. Illinois over Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I guess I believe Illinois will win the championship. It's why I predicted on uSTADIUM 3 months ago before the season started. But once again, I I love this Georgia Tech team. If they were in the Sweet 16, it wouldn't surprise me. I'm putting that on the record as well.
Yeah, and I think the same can be said for Loyola. That is a tough 8-9 matchup for me to pick. Kate Cunningham and the Cowboys.
Yep.
I think Syracuse beats West Virginia.
I also agree there.
And then Houston over Rutgers.
Yep.
We have all 3 11 seats so far.
Oh, there's no 11 seed to pick in this one.
Yeah, so that's good. Baylor over North Carolina. I think that's fine.
Yeah, it could be. That could be a really fascinating game, though.
I think Purdue's a really good team. Like, I think right next to Florida State, they're the best 4 seed. I mean, I think Winthrop I'm only picking them over Villanova because Villanova's had all their issues, like with Gillespie. I think Purdue handily wins this game.
I agree.
I like Arkansas a lot over Texas Tech, but I think the winner here can beat Ohio State.
Yeah, that would be a very fascinating game between Moody and Matt McClung, 2 great guards and 2 of the best guards in the country.
And then I think we both pick Ohio State.
Yep.
All right. There's what we think could happen, for next week. We got Gonzaga Creighton, Wichita. We have Drake versus Oregon, Baylor Purdue, Arkansas Ohio State, Michigan Florida State, Michigan State Alabama, Illinois Oklahoma State, Syracuse Houston. Thank you guys for watching. This has been uBRACKETOLOGY Part 1. We have 2 more parts. We're going to be back next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. my time. So I got to wake up early for it again. That's cool. Thank you for joining me, Alec. Also, thank you to Fifth. I know we had some technical difficulties today, but we're going to try to iron those out so we can have a banger show next week. I will see you guys actually later because we have another show. We have 6 p.m. Eastern. We have Lando Leapers coming back for some Packers talk. So,
closing thoughts. Don't sleep on Georgia Tech and don't sleep on Oral Roberts. Also, Ronnie Hudson to the Ravens. I'm praying it happens.
Oh, I think he just signed with the Cardinals.
What?
Yeah, check uSTADIUM. Anyways, peace out, guys. We'll be back Wednesday.